Look at the UVTV motherfucker. I'm gonna kick spiritual ass and do this for my people. On God. Neon nigga for Feta Man. Today we're gonna be talking about the power of saying no and knowing yourself. Now, just in general, right? To make it like mad simple. So no just deals with everything you not. So look at that as negativity or denial or rejection or uncertainty, doubt, the lack thereof, invalid, nothing, nobody, disagreeing, indecisiveness, or disliking, or stopping something. And then the opposite of that would be like something that's positive, something that's valid, something that's agreeable, something that's certain, divisive, likable, oh, productive, creative, is making something. So based upon that type of energy and stuff like that, right? All that just envelops into this energy, this energy signature, right? Now, based upon the power of saying no, when you learn how to say no, that's you knowing yourself and stuff like that. Knowing is just no ledge. So there's no ledge when it comes to knowledge and awareness and intelligence and stuff like that. It's infinite. It's a bottomless pit. It's void, just in general. You know what I'm saying? It can go on forever and ever and ever. You know what I'm saying? All possibilities of having a whole bunch of different knowledge and stuff like that. But you can know so much to where you ain't gonna know how to have some type of wisdom out of it. So from you being wise, being a wise man, and having some type of wisdom is to make it so you have some type of process behind it. So you're learning something from your awareness. You're learning something from your experiences. You're learning something from what you know. And the minute you start to gain some type of wisdom and learning something based upon the knowledge that you have, aka the awareness of what you're paying attention to, just in general, and you start to expand on that sentience, that attention span, and that comprehension and stuff like that, right? Attention span is just based upon what you're being attentive about, and your intentions is based upon how much something means to you, based upon the concentration. So the thing that you're trying to make concrete, the thing that you're trying to make solidified and stuff like that. That's why it always matters what the fuck you paying attention to. So the minute you start to figure out yourself and you start figuring out, oh, what do you want to have for yourself, you start to take your own power back and you start understanding your own power. Look at your power as your own talent, your own gift, your own abilities, your own intelligence, your own comprehension, your own experiences, your own knowledge and wisdom, your own know-how and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Your own specific way that you naturally and organically got to based upon you trying to do it from your own subjective point of view, your own perspective, but also being individualistic and authentic and you being true to yourself. And that's the overall truth just in general. But you can't figure out the truth without going through the lies, the deception, the illusion, just in general. And us being in this physical reality is an illusion in itself because we taking on a whole bunch of different shapes and forms, a whole bunch of different thoughts, a whole bunch of different feelings, a whole bunch of different dreams, a whole bunch of different villains. And then we are around other sentient beings and stuff like that, and we see these things beyond and outside of us to mess up our own perspective because they had their own perspective. But for you to even be into existence in the first place, you had to create that and do that for a long period of time to where you had the comprehension and the awareness, and it got broadened up based upon the expansion and the contraction. So you expanded out of a mind, I thought, I did, feel, an emotion, and condense it into a new one based upon your different experiences, and it's creating that post. So from you having that vibe, you know what I'm saying? From you having that vibration, from you having a pulse and stuff like that, all the way down to like you physically having a pulse and you being alive right now. You had to be born into existence. So you had to give birth to something, give birth to a certain thought, and resonate with that lifestyle, or you giving it life, aka you planting a seed for something, of something you trying to for something you want to do, whether it was like a desire or some type of goal or some type of passion and stuff like that, and then you actually lived that experience, and then you end up having to let it go, aka it went through a death, aka you actually did the thing and it got materialized and it got lived out to a certain point in time, and then now it's gonna die out, and then now you have to transform and transmute that energy to create another way of how to go about it, just in a more expanded form, just in general. So that's how we got born into existence, from being on this train of thought. You know what I'm saying? From us being in this process, from us being to this mechanism and stuff like that. And the only thing that's constant in life is change. So you start looking at all that as a different process. So being born into existence is similar to giving life to something, and giving life to something is similar to dying and stuff like that. So that's a way to get over physical death and not being stuck into a certain program or a fear of reality. No, you supposed to make the sphere, not the fear. The sphere of reality. You know what I'm saying? The world itself. You have to make your own atmosphere, your own world, your own way of looking at things, and just in general. And you can't do that without understanding the mechanism, just in general. So the minute you know how to know yourself, right, and have that power of saying no, you start to understand everything that you're not. So you start understanding you're not like that. No, shout out finesse 2 times. No, no, like, yeah, you not like that. You not like that. You start to figure out everything you're not. You're not that shape and form because we in the flesh right now, right? We're not this though. You know what I'm saying? Because this is temporary. We're gonna die one day. If I want to make that mad simple, we're gonna die one day. And then your lighter shape and form of this body, your light body, your first mind, your first body is your mentality. So thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions. Okay, thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, they come and go. You can feel one way a couple hours ago and then feel a whole different way a couple hours later. You can feel one way a couple days ago and then a couple days later, you don't feel that way no more. You could feel one way or think in a certain thought pattern in one way 5 years ago. 5 years later, as you mature and stuff like that, you get more experiences or know-how or more awareness and stuff like that. You ain't gonna think and feel the same way of how you did 5 years ago and stuff like that. So it's a natural process. So it's based upon what you're paying attention to and what you're experiencing. And is that more healthy for you or is that more unhealthy? Look at that as, is it more productive or is that more counterproductive? Are you getting your own way? Is it adding on to what you're trying to build, of what you're trying to create to your life, or is this like a setback, or are you trying to get lost into a memory, a membrane, a pocket of time and stuff like that? You get what I'm saying? So just in general, right? Y'all have to understand the power of saying no. So there's an ability, there's a natural gift and a natural process and mechanism from understanding what to say no to in general. Or when you start going through that process of not knowing something, just in general, when you don't know. So you're in the dark about something. So it's unknown or unbeknownst to you, just in general, right? So from it being unbeknownst and you don't know about it, that lets you know, oh, okay, you do have some knowledge about it. Okay, so what that means? Because I know motherfuckers will be like, but you just said you don't know anything about it. So what you talking about? Oh, you know something about it when you just said you don't know shit about it and stuff like that. Okay, you knew that you didn't know about it. So you did know about it, but you knew how much you did know. You didn't know. So that lets you know, oh, okay, you had that you had enough essence or substance or experiences or awareness based upon previous and this lifetime now to know, oh, when it comes to that specific pocket or that specific culture or that specific niche or that specific thing, you know that you don't know about that. You don't know about the potential of that thing. So the minute you start to brighten that up, you start to figure out a certain spectrum, a certain range, a certain distance, a certain aspect of, oh, this is something that's fresh and new to me, but I could potentially learn about this because I'm trying to resonate with this thing, and it's something that, you know what I'm saying? It could turn to like an ability, or it turns into a thing to where you start to figure out if you are good at that or not, or you are valid in that or not, are you creative in that or not? Does it resonate, or I need a sip of water, or does it resonate with you or not? So just in general, right? It's not about you winning or losing. Look at that as like the ups and downs. That's a natural process. You're gonna go through the ups and downs. You're gonna go through the win and the loss. You're gonna go through conviction or having decisiveness or having certainty about something, and then you're also gonna have the uncertainty. You're gonna have the unknownism about it. You're not gonna know about it as much. You're gonna doubt yourself. Just in general, look at it as like the negativity and things of that nature. But when you learn how to go through that negativity or go through that process of going through that that mechanism or that process of transforming or changing or transmuting something and stuff like that, right? That's you going through the process of expanding and condensing and stuff like that. Look at positivity is you trying to making something more broad, or you're trying to make something more expanded. So you're trying to expand the comprehension, expand the parameter, expand the room, expand the arena of what you do know about it. And look at condensing as, oh, you only have a certain boundary restriction limit or a limitation of how far it could go, but you have to go through the process and the mechanism. That's why I said earlier, oh, it's like a up or a down or a win or a loss, but the whole thing itself isn't about that. It's not about you getting stuck into a certain spectrum, you getting stuck into a certain shade, you getting stuck into a certain memory and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? That's like you getting stuck into a pocket of time, like I was saying earlier, right? The whole thing itself is just you experiencing something, but it's never gonna be experienced fully unless you go through the inexperience as well and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to learn about the dichotomies. You have to learn about the polarity of something, like the yin and the yang. You get what I'm saying? The internal, external. So just in general, right? Based upon knowledge and it being knowledge, and you always gonna have some type of awareness about it or some type of intelligence based upon what you do know, you start to learn the unknown isms of the negativity or the uncertainty to make it like mad simple. So you're always gonna be a walking. You're always gonna be like even though females are really that because they're walking vibration, so they're gonna be walking uncertainties and stuff like that. And then men, they're natural. They're like walking frequency, so they're basically gonna be walking positivity. Okay, so what that mean? Because I know y'all gonna turn that into some morality type of thing, to where y'all be like, oh, so you saying women are all bad and they all devils and demons and stuff like that, and you saying men are all angels and they all positive and they all good and stuff like that? No, not in that type spectrum. Even though you can look at it like that, but based upon the words I'm using, I know motherfuckers gonna get lost into the words I'm using and stuff like that, but I don't mean it in that type of way and stuff like that. I'm saying the whole thing is a process. It's the same way how a woman has a pussy. She has a vagina. She has a womb. She has a coochie. And then a man, he has a dick. He has a penis. And a penis gets erect and stuff like that. So based upon it being erect, okay, a man on the percentage scale is going to be the father. And then a woman on the percentage scale is going to be like the mother or the wife and stuff like that, right? The mistress. So men, from them having a dick, they like to get erect. So they like to direct. That's why that stereotype of men being a provider and stuff like that, right? That's why I get thrown onto them, because they're more on the percentage scale of the masculine energy. The masculine energy is like you giving something out, externalizing. The feminine energy is you internalizing something and taking something in and receiving something. So men, masculine energy would be like perception, and then feminine energy would be like reception. You're receiving something. Masculine energy is more of the thought and idea of something and trying to build and create out of what you're thinking and idealizing. And then the feminine energy is more of a emotion and feeling. That's why females are more emotional, because they like to redirect, and then men like to direct shit. And that's that fine balance, that yin and yang that I'm talking about, external, internal, and stuff like that, right? So niggas like to direct shit, or the masculine energy just in general. That's directing something. You know what I'm saying? That's externalizing something. That's giving something out. That's providing something. The feminine energy is like receiving something or taking something in, or internalizing something based upon reception. And then the masculine will be like reception. The masculine will be like a thought idea, and then the feminine will be like an emotion or a feeling. But the whole thing is a process. You have an idea about something, you start to think about it, and then you have a certain feeling. It's gonna create a specific feeling, and specific feelings are just emotions. So something that starts you essentially moving. You know what I'm saying? Emotions essentially moving. That's the shit I like to call it in general, right? So once you understand your divine masculine and your divine feminine and stuff like that, right? The divine energy is like a divination. Divination or divine natures and stuff like that. You start to figure out your divine nature just in general. So a divination is just a divine nation or divine nature and stuff like that. So you start to figure out your heavenly natures. Your heavenly natures is based upon, okay, what's a heaven? A heaven is, you know what I'm saying? A heaven is like the abode or the home of God. Okay, what's God? All possibilities. So you able to make all possibilities, or you acting in your godly natures, not you being God, no, godly natures based upon your essence and your substance from the most natural and organic place, aka your spirit, your soul, right? So your individual spirit is your soul, and then spirituality is just the overall actuality. So it's believing in something beyond just yourself and stuff like that, based upon the overall space. You know what I'm saying? And all of our spirits is doing that. And we always like to emit an imagination. We always like to emit our productivity. We always like to emit our creations and stuff like that. We always like to create an atmosphere, the sphere at most, the world at most. We always like to create a world based upon our own subjective point of view, and then we make the world. We are the world and stuff like that. So based upon our subjective point of view, we make the objective point of view just in general. So I'm breaking all this down, right? Because it goes back into, the power of saying no and knowing yourself and stuff like that. All that goes into, you knowing yourself based upon knowledge and comprehension and stuff like that. Because it's going to get you back into your natural natures and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? The divine masculine, divine feminine and stuff like that. So all the way down to that process of going back to the no or the negativity or something that's invalid. That's just a process. So something that's more broad, aka more positive, or something that's more valid or certain or agreeable and stuff like that, that you are more certain, not certain, something that's more likable and stuff like that, right? It's gonna turn into something that's built upon the dislike. It's something that's built upon the uncertainty. It's built upon the negativity and stuff like that. It's built upon the boundary restriction limit, or the thing that got denied, or the thing that you actually doubted. So you're never gonna know how to get the full spectrum without going through that negativity, without going through the uncertainty, without going through the hate or going through being disliked. That's why you shouldn't even be giving a fuck about a hater. No, you're not gonna even be successful or be likable without the haters either, because you're not gonna figure out what niggas don't dislike. You're not gonna figure out what niggas dislike about you, and you start to understand. Oh, not everyone's gonna like your way of how to go about something. You know what I'm saying? The more you figure out your natural natures, and the more you figure out how to be yourself, and the more you know how to be more authentic and stuff like that, right? You're gonna start you know what I'm saying? You're gonna find your own little pocket. You know what I'm saying? Your own little lane, your own likeness and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Your own individualistic way of how you go about something. And then not everyone, based upon their own subjective point of view, because not everyone got the same mind as you. Not everyone got the same spirit as yours. Not everyone has the same thought process and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? We all got our own mind. We all got our own perspective, our own subjective point of view of how we look at shit. Like, everyone has their own perception. Everyone has their own perspective and stuff like that. So when someone else being their natural natures, it's probably not gonna resonate with your space. It's probably not gonna resonate with your way of how you create things for yourself. It's probably not gonna resonate with your character, your temperament, your disposition and stuff like that. Someone else had to do that, but do that in their own way, based upon how they grew up in their life and the things they want to give life and be born into existence and stuff like that, and how they want to come back and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Based upon their comprehension and things of that nature, right? So they had to build themselves up and learn that process of, oh, what resonate with them and what don't resonate with them. Oh, what puts them more in a boundary restriction limit, or what's a thing they're not willing to do compared to somebody else, and how far they're willing to go with something, and then how they'll probably deny themselves or something. So it's gonna turn into a thing that's when it starts to turn into that conversation of morality in good and bad. Even though you shouldn't really be giving a fuck about that either. But I'm saying, like, in that world, in the spirit world and stuff like that, there's no such thing as like a morality thing, like a good and a bad. There's a positive and a negative polarity and stuff like that. So based upon it being a positive or a negative polarity, just look at that as something that's certain or is uncertain. So if it's all possibilities, right, there's certain certainties or potentialities of something, and there's certain things that aren't certain in that and stuff like that. But just in general, that's just the whole scope of the situation. But it's not a thing that's good or bad, like a morality or like an ethical type of thing. There's no good or bad way of how to go about that, just in general. It's just going to show all the different possibilities, all the things that could come out of it, all the things that could be certain and not be certain out of it, the potential that got unlocked and the potential that didn't get unlocked. You know what I'm saying? So it starts to turn to a thing. Whether it's valid or invalid, that's a whole different conversation. The whole thing is just about is it possible to even do something like that? And then that's the thing we trying to make a thing in general and stuff like that. Oh, is it possible to go that far and actually create something out of it? And that's the whole point. You know what I'm saying? It's something that start to get proved. You know how people say that saying, oh, God only help those who help themselves? That's what that means. So it's like, if you're willing to go the distance with that and help yourself get to that point. But the whole point isn't a point at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not to say, oh, don't give a fuck about nothing, like on some Rick and Morty nihilistic shit. No, it's just to say, oh, that's just a space of, oh, it could be that or it could not be that. But it's just a happening. You know what I'm saying? It's just a happening. It's just a mechanism. It's just a process. It could or it could not be that, but we'll see if you take it that far to see if you want to actually actualize what you seeing based upon your visions and shit. You see how I spun that shit? You know what I'm saying? Like, all that go into it, bro. The power of saying no and knowing yourself and all that type shit. So the minute you start to figure out what actually start to resonate with you and what you do know based upon your awareness and stuff like that, that's when you start to figure out your own path of what you are certain about, or what you do feel valid about, or what you do know about, and then you start to go along that line of reason and stuff like that. And it don't really matter how people look at it, regardless if it's degenerate or generative and stuff like that. You created it, and it's based upon your experiences and stuff like that. Even if someone else is way more aware or way more comprehensible or went through different lifetimes and more experiences when it comes to having a know-how, when it comes to those things just in general, right? I'm basically trying to say the whole thing in itself is still you trying to figure out yourself. It's still you know what I'm saying? You experiencing that thing in real time. So if it's actually genuine and sincere and you showing who you actually is when it comes to that perspective, right? Of, oh, okay, like that's like a motherfucker, like everyone could look at them as like, oh, they crashing out, oh, they fucking up and stuff like that. But that's probably their first time ever crashing out like that or fucking up like that. So they still in the lane of, oh, they're trying to figure out themselves. They're still trying to know themselves and stuff like that, right? But everyone else look at them like they dumb and stupid because of this, that, and the third, right? And they'll be like, oh, you should know better. But the only thing they know is how much they don't know about that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like even though they hearing all these different things about, oh, you should go about like this based upon like their parents and the people around them and stuff like that. Some people don't really know like that unless they actually figure it out through experience themselves. And they probably never experienced that thing like that to that extent and went that far. So it's going to take them a whole bunch of ups and downs and try and error until they start to figure out, oh, okay, this is a better way how to go about that. Just in general. But at the end of the day, I still eventually learn something out of it. So it's going to have a better mechanism for me knowing myself just in general. So overall, right, when you start to understand the power of saying no, the more you start to understand everything that you're not, just in general. So it's not something to where you just start saying no to everything, because that's not really the point of this video at all. Of like, oh, you start to reject everything. You have to start saying no to everything. No, it's you understanding. You have to understand the whole scope, the whole mechanism, the whole process in itself, that you're not that. And you're supposed to be no shape and form. So the minute you start to understand that, you don't get too lost in a certain desire. You don't get lost into a certain way of being and stuff like that. Because your natural state of being is something based upon your substance and your essence and your temperament and your disposition and your character and stuff like that. And the only way you can craft that in general is to make something look like it's nothing. Make something look like it's effortless and stuff like that. So when you start to figure out, oh, what's something more easier going or effortless for you to do, you start to understand your more natural state of being. And then once you understand your natural state of being, then you can start to compare contrast. Oh, what's more harder for me to figure out? What's more harder for me to gain some comprehension about? You know what I'm saying? What are the things that I'm not as certain about based upon what, you know what I'm saying? Like me being in the dark about those things, or me doubting those things and stuff like that. Oh, of me actualizing the potential of this, that, and the third type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like from you understanding the whole scope of that, then it's going to start leading to that trend along thought or reason of, oh, this is a better way to extract wisdom out of what I know about myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the main point I'm trying to say. Like, the power of saying no and knowing yourself just in general, right? When you start to deny yourself of certain things, then you start to figure out, oh, what you are certain about. Oh, what you do feel valid about. Oh, what you do feel comprehensible about and stuff like that. And then you start to compare, oh, I could go for this vision or this dream or this goal, and I feel more resonant with this thing, and I never went as far as something else. But once I understand my natural abilities when it comes to certain things, I figure out my pocket though. You know what I'm saying? You start to figure out your lane of what you are certain about, and you can just build on that, and then it starts to turn into you actualizing your potential shit. And then that's it. So in simplest terms, the minute you start to figure out everything that you're not, then you start to figure out, oh, everything that you are, because the only thing you're going to have left is your essence. The only thing you're going to have left is your substance. The only thing you're going to have left is what you are wise about. You know what I'm saying? What you have experienced. Oh, what you have learned, just in general. And then you start to expand and contract with that. And then you start to understand your heavenly nature. So what would be the thing in general that makes you feel more godly? Oh, what's something that makes you feel more creative? What makes you feel more productive? And what's that pocket? What's that lane? What does that look like? You know what I'm saying? What is that dream? What is that imagination that you want to admit? You know what I'm saying? What is that light? And you start to brighten that up. So the things that you end up being in the dark about of what you don't know, you start to figure out, oh yeah, I don't know about this, that, and the third, and I'm already in denial of a whole bunch of different shit that I feel doubtful or uncertain about. But then you start to understand from you losing yourself, you start to end up knowing yourself from losing yourself a little bit because you're not in those shapes and forms no more and stuff like that. Because you're really not any of those things. You're nobody. You're no shape and form in general. Because you know what I'm saying? Like we all experience some bodies. So we're nobody. We're not any of those shapes and forms. But those shapes and forms make us who we are in the flesh and stuff like that. But you can't get too lost into that illusion. And the more you start to not get too lost into the illusion, you start to get back to the natural essence or the natural, like, you know what I'm saying? Like the natural states of being of your natural state of being, just in general, of who you are in existence. And then you start to figure out, oh, like it started to turn into like some Neon Genesis, Evangelion type of shit. You start to have an existential crisis and stuff like that. Like, oh, what's the reason of why I exist? And this, that, and the third. And then you start to figure out who you actually are from you understanding what you not. And then you start figuring out, oh, this is what I want to be valid in, or what I am more valid in, and what I do know. And you start to gain that experience and that know-how and that knowledge, and it starts to turn into a wisdom and stuff like that. So you start to figure out, oh, I'm wise about this, but I just know, or I'm aware about this, but I'm more wise about, you know what I'm saying? You start to compartmentalize in your mind and stuff like that. Like, oh, this thing right here, I'm wise about. This thing right here, this is just knowledge. Like I'm aware about it, but I really don't have no wise thing or experiences, or I learned things about this. You know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing I can extract out of it. There's nothing I've learned out of it, but I'm aware about it. I know about it, just in general. So it's like, yeah. And then even then, right, you be seeing that shit in real time. Like it's like motherfuckers who always want to be relatable, who always want to be agreeable to everything and stuff like that. So they be saying yes to everything, but then they end up getting lost into everyone else's light. They start getting lost into everyone else's illusions. They start getting, you know what I'm saying, manipulated and stuff like that, or taking advantage of it and stuff like that, because they're putting themselves in a disadvantage because you're not denying yourself of certain things. Because it's like your resistance, you're literally resisting against knowing yourself, and that's really no ledge, but it's based upon the awareness. And then based upon that awareness, you can extract wisdom out of it. So the minute you start getting lost into other people's light and they love and they validation and stuff like that, and you try to be agreeable or try to be likable too much or try to adhere to everyone else's problems and stuff like that, you're never gonna have nothing based upon your own esoteric seat and your own table and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? You ain't never gonna have no food to eat because everyone taking over your table and just taking over your whole living room and your whole household, your whole fucking plate and stuff like that. You always giving your shit away. You always giving your power away and stuff like that. Just in general. So it's like, yeah, you be seeing that shit in real time. Like motherfuckers who always want to be valid. They always want to be agreeable. They always want to be likable and stuff like that. So it literally turns into a validation issue and stuff like that, because you always saying positive shit, or you always trying to say yes to shit, just in general, when the whole thing is a process. Just in general, it's a balance of, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like when motherfuckers be saying that shit about the yin and the yang and stuff like that. Oh, it's always going to be a positive and a negative out of it. You know what I'm saying? It's always going to be a process of the up and the down. It's always going to be a process of, oh, you win and you lose. But the whole process in itself, the mechanism, is both. You can't do it without the other, just in general. So we constantly in a contradiction. We constantly in a polarity and stuff like that. We constantly in a dualistic state of mind and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Without one thing, you also need the other. But the whole scope in general is understand the process and the mechanism of, you need the whole thing in general. You can't just have your cake and eat it too. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's not always gonna go in your favor and stuff like that. But that's the beauty of life, just in general, of that, because it's gonna make it so you have something to have that pressure or have that friction up against. You know what I'm saying? You always need that opposition. You always need that thing that's the opposite of that, to make it so you can keep going with that. To make it so you can keep even having that healthy or positive mindset and stuff like that. So you can keep expanding. You need that boundary restriction limit. You need that death. You need that deterioration and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? You need that negativity. You need that hate, because it's not gonna make it so you can figure out what's the thing you actually like. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna make it so you can it's gonna make it so you can have that thing you actually can be wise about. It's gonna make that thing you actually can have certainty about. and make it so you can have that thing to make it so you can stay in that position and stay in power because you're never gonna lose your edge and stuff like that. Because you got too comfortable in a certain position of being something that everyone finds likable or agreeable or relatable and stuff like that. You ain't never gonna find a new way to relate, and that's it. Like